Okay. So today's training is on reviews, and we'll kick it off, and then I'll hand it over to Juan, and we'll have some questions for you all as we go through it. So feel free to offer any of your expertise based on your experience. Okay. So if you are curious about the reviews based on the regulations, you can out 20 CFR 658.03 that covers ETA regional office responsibilities. It says that the regional administrator shall assess overall performance of state agencies on an ongoing basis through depth reviews and the required reporting systems. That they shall conduct comprehensive on-site reviews of state agencies and their offices, that review state agency organization, management, and program operations, and then conduct periodic performance reviews of state agencies, offer JS services, performance measures, budget plans, past performance, all of that good stuff. So just like what is mandating the regulations, or conduct entails assessing staff capabilities and how they're meeting the needs of MW customers, providing comprehensive on-site reviews of service providers, and the job development, job placement, and the written policies that they have. So a lot of those may be doing, but it's also really important to make sure that, okay, do the policy, and is it written down, and what does that look like, and does that make sense? Maintaining a formal process for reaching goals, identifying challenges, and offering and providing technical assistance to ensure that the services provided to MSSWs and who want to work in agriculture are appropriate and timely. We talk regulatory compliance and providing technical assistance and ensuring there's consistency. So a lot of state monitor advocates can look at the regulations and say, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. However, as we have seen, it interpret certain regulations differently. And the situation may be different for each state. So to the best extent possible on the regional level, it's good to look at, does it make sense, is there consistency, so that we can all be working together and all be on the same page. Prior to a review, it's to notify the state of your date and the process. So it's recommended that you notify the state at least to 8 weeks in advance. Also send them a letter to confirm those dates and the details of the review process. So you would inform them about what the state can expect during your review, what information you'll be looking at. Know that there is an entrance conference. Review will last X amount of days. You would like to go to the different sites. Who would you like to talk to when you go to the office, when you go to the different sites? And I'll let them know that you'll be available to provide technical assistance and you'll be looking for when you're going to those sites. So you're looking for compliance with the regulations, and you'll be making observations. And the non-compliance, does it, it rises to the level of a finding, and what does that mean, right? So explaining what you mean as well as what you'll be doing can be really helpful for states, and so that they can prepare for you for the review. It's also to notify, we've talked about the National Monitor Advocate of your review dates have been really, really great in this area, and letting us know when you do have upcoming reviews, because it's something that is really helpful for us to participate in. It helps give NMA the idea of the vision of services, of areas that need greater technical assistance. So we greatly appreciate that. Requesting pertinent documents. Before you go on a review, you can request an organizational guide that helps give you an idea of where the state monitor advocate within their broader organization. It kind of gives you an idea, possibly, of that power structure. As we know, and as we've seen, some advocates are really able to exercise agency over their different duties and policies. Some are not. Some are much more hindered with their organizational structure. So that can help. You can request to review complaint logs and MOUs with partner organizations, just to get an idea of what state is at in each of those areas. If you a state's agricultural outreach plan and LEARS data beforehand, it's really helpful. You may already be doing this, but we want to throw it out there. But what does that mean, right? When we say review the state's AOP, what are you looking for? We were looking for things like, what are the goals planned in the AOP? What has the state done to accomplish those goals? What challenges did the state face, or what challenges have they expressed? Looking at those things will give you an idea of possible kind of technical assistance that you can provide that would help them. Or you can also just kind of keep an eye out, knowing, okay, they're having challenges in this area. What might be causing those problems, and how can I help? At LEARS data, you might want to look at things like, is significant states? How many MSFWs are in the state? Numbers show that the state is contacting a significant number of MSFWs compared to the anticipated number in the state. Collaborating with cooperating agency staff. Right? So you can look at that by looking at the number of MSFW contacts they have. As low, you might focus on outreach during your review. If the number of cooperating agency staff contacts is 0, it's a good indicator that they might not be working with their parts in the state, the NFJP grantees or other MSFW organizations. So you want to focus on providing technical assistance so that they can establish those relationships. Which ones are significant? Do you have the availability to review those offices? Are there any apparent violations reported in LEARS? If no, you may want to ask them what they're doing about apparent violations, ask them about their reviews, ask them about their site visits. Look at the number of complaints. This is a lot of information, so I can also slow down if anyone needs to, or we can always go back to it. But look at the number of complaints. Is the number of complaints low compared to the number of anticipated MSFWs in the state? If numbers are low, you may want to focus on your attention more on the complaint system. And do they need TA in that area? Are there complaint system posters at every stop? Obviously, that's something that you want for anyway, but you may just, it can raise your attention to that this could be an issue and it could be affecting their numbers. Or the appropriate number of field checks conducted. Read the narrative responses. Are narrative responses? If they're not narrative responses, then that could be an area that you can ask them, please provide these narrative responses, or if they're short, ask them to elaborate. that's what gives you and what gives us a really detailed idea of what the state is doing, whether it's success stories, whether it's challenges. That sort of really helps us to do. And does the state meet its equity ratio indicators and its minimum level service indicators? All of this information can also be found in our Analyzing Data PowerPoint. So if you look at other ways to prepare for your review, I would just read the Analyzing Data PowerPoint that we provided, and I can give that to you. But that's why we're looking at all this information, right? And so when you're going to look at it, and then you're actually going to go out into the field and talk with everyone and put all that knowledge into play. I would recommend here is look at previous reviews. First, were last review and issues. Was there a corrective action plan? Any observations? Has anything been done to correct some of those issues? Things that if there are outstanding issues, you can let the state know that last time this is what happened, and I would like, when I go in or before when, I would like an update on this information. So that's also a really great resource. That was information, and what I would like to do now is quickly turn over to you all. Are there any practices, any I have or that you engage in prior review that we didn't go over here that's helpful for the rest of the group?
With Region 2, I wouldn't say that we have something that you didn't cover, but I just wanted to say that we notify the state or the state monitor advocate really 30 days prior to the review is our requirement.
Mm-hmm.
I said 6 to 8 weeks, so I don't know if that's a requirement that's being set, has been set. It's certainly not something that we're following, so I'm not sure if that's a change we have to make.
No.
Is that more a common practice?
No, I think it's a regional practice, so that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine, Nicole. No, it's nothing set in concrete or per regulations or anything like that. But yeah.
Okay.
If it is with that, no problem. Yeah. Good.
This is Bill in Region 4.
Yeah, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
We usually maintain or provide contact prior to the official letter going out. So we'll basically have a negotiation of when is a good time to go out, and then 30 days prior, then we'll send out our letter.
Good point. Yeah.
So a mutually beneficial time for both parties.
Correct.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Hi there, I'm in Region 1. I just had a question about for field checks and field visits, like documentation of those being conducted. Some sort of standard way that state should document those as they occur, or is it at their discretion, or what you're looking for those?
Now, of course, in the LEARS report, the compliance levels that the states must conduct at least 25% of their job orders where they have placed domestic workers. So 25% of those job orders should have field checks conducted. But as far as the documentation, you would not much on the field visits, but definitely on the field checks. We do want some type of documentation, and you could ask for one of the ways that you could actually. Or where you could start is take a look at how many, ask for the number of job orders that they have for the quarter or for the year,
Sure.
for the year, and then compare that to the field checks and what kind of documentation they have for when conducting these field checks. Now, it might be something that, and it doesn't happen as often, but I keep encouraging this to happen, that the state workforce agencies collaborate with Wage and Hour in conducting some of these field checks. So there may be a time when we also have to reach out to through the state workforce agencies to Wage and Hour to see if they have been conducting field checks on the state's behalf. So that's another possibility. But as far as documentation, there's no set guidance. We just would need to find out, what any violations, especially after if you look at the year's reports, they report on the total number of field checks, but also on the total number of violations found as a result of these field checks. And that's something also that you might want to take a look at.
Yeah, it's on the leadership reports, but I just wanted to, while I'm on site, look at the numbers in the leadership reports and make sure the documentation that they have for field checks matches the numbers they're reporting.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if it's. I don't think it's within their their labor exchange systems per se, but other than and maybe the state and private is having that type of documentation, or it may be a matter of some states have different offices, the foreign labor certification offices that handle those also. So coordinate that with the state monitor advocate.
So they can document any number of ways. It just needs to happen. Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, this is Chris for Region 6. I have a question kind of for the group. Well, we tend to go out on the state with the state review, the whole team, but recently I went to Oregon by myself, and I thought that was useful too. I even got more attention from the state than I was there myself. So I was wondering how the other regions handle that, whether they can go out on state reviews or both. Thanks.
Region 1, we reviews with the consolidated compliance review schedule. So those are 3 years, and so we did this fiscal year. We did Vermont, New Jersey, and Rhode Island, and then we'll do 4 next year, and then 3 the year after that to cover all 10 states in Region 1 on a fair basis.
Yeah. Good.
Also, you all for that, your insight. That's really helpful. And I am going to hand it over to Juan to take it here.
Thank you, Leanne. And as this presentation, we thought, basically we would be preaching to the choir, because I know if most of you, if not all of you, had either are or have been or are federal project officers. So, and you've been conducting reviews for a while. But I think we wanted to, of course, concentrate on efforts on what to look for when we talk about the state's responsibilities in providing services to MSFWs. And I think out of the 3 primary functions, the monitoring of the MAs, the monitor advocates, whether state, regional, or national, the monitoring, advocacy, and field visits, I think this is the most important one, the monitoring, because really there to ensure that we review the provision of employment and training services, the benefits and protections to migrant seasonal farm workers. We review the functioning of the state complaint system. And Liana touched on a couple of ideas regarding that. I know I have some stories, especially on this first one, and I have control of the. If I can find my cursor here. There we go. We're conducting the review. So we talked, Liana talked already about the entrance conference, what to do during the prior to that, but also when you're on site. It's kind of reviewing the letter that you send and reviewing who you're who will be interviewing, who will be accompanying you. Like, that's a good point that you brought up, Christopher, because I think most of the reviews are part of the comprehensive reviews of the regional offices. But it's great when you do go on your own and you do get a little bit more attention on that, and especially when you send out your formal review report. So just looking at the entrance, seeing how again who you will be talking to, taking a tour of the facility, looking at signages or looking at signage and how accessible it is for farm workers, how accessible it is for our LEP, our limited English proficiency population. It's information available in different languages understandable to these populations. The complaint poster, Liana touched on the complaint poster. Enough for any other examples when it comes to the entrance and also tour facilities. Reminds me one time I was in just actually conducting a site visit, and I was actually visiting one of the one-stops with the state administrator, and we both were walking up to the front of the building, and there was this individual in a wheelchair looking for the button, the handicap button to open the doors, and couldn't find it. And we got to where the individual was, and we looked back. There was a half a wall in the back of the individual where the button was. So the individual had no idea that this button was right behind it until we came over to look at it, and we saw that button that was behind. So I told the administrator, if I were actually conducting a site review, this would actually be a finding, because how the people with disabilities be able to locate that button in the back. It's not really accessible. So she makes sure that she took care of that before the next review. So are there any other stories about touring the facility or getting to the facility? I know there was another one in another state where I was with the Wagner-Peiser FPO at the time, and I was the assistant RMA, and we had a hard time. And then we can imagine how a farm worker would find this local one-stop, this local office. Any other stories regarding that? We'll go ahead and go on to the next one. I have a lot of information, as Liana mentions, and we can provide it. Recording, one of the things that we're doing is definitely recording the presentation, but also the different signs. So we will provide, and Karen will assist us in this. We'll provide you information on tools, some of the tools that we're going to be talking about. I know there's one checklist that they have that we'll provide to you after the training, where you have all the regulations, the stations, and this document actually provides you who's responsible. Is it at the state level of this, for this set of citations? Is it at the local office level? Is it the manager's responsibility, or is it the state monitor advocate's responsibility? So it's a comprehensive checklist that we'll provide you after the training. I like those signs. Conduct review. Basically, again, opening the session, the facility, the state monitor advocates. Make sure that definitely the state monitor advocates are accompanying you during this process, because ultimately, they will either provide you information or the information that you may obtain at the state level, and you down to the local level. More likely, you will be accompanied by the state monitor advocates, or sometimes the administrator staff. Someone from the state administrator staff will accompany you. How many of your reviews that you've conducted, have you had the monitor advocate accompany you only, or you would have other staff accompany you, for those of you who have conducted reviews? Chris, to accompany you last time you were in Oregon? The call?
Yeah, this is Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy.
The SMAs always accompany my and any federal staff when we go into local office review.
Mm-hmm. The state monitor advocate. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's at that level. I've had some state, maybe because of the national monitor advocate, but I've had some state administrator staff also. And the state administrator staff were with me. A couple of staff were with me for the duration of the review, the whole week, from the all the way down to the local office level. So it's another area that that I always talk about is the reception and the resource area. Checking in with the receptionist, when you take a look at that poster Liana mentioned, look at the poster and if you look at the data, something that Liana didn't touch on, but when you look at the data, and I think she did, you're already going to have an idea of what you're going to be focusing on. An example of where I already knew just by looking at the data that the state didn't have any complaints, and there was an ag significant state, and we can't have that, So those are the things that we're looking. Then when you go to the state and they don't have a complaint procedure handbook or posters and the local one stuff, all of that kind of combines to no, that's why they don't have the complaints, because they just don't market. It's one of the responsibilities for the states to market the complaint system. So easy to get information from the resource from the receptionist. They ask them, how do you if I were a farm worker and I complained, where would I be referred? How would my complaint be handled? Well, we would refer you to H&R. Well, no, it's not right. We have to explain the complaint system. We have to offer them the complaint form. So all those things you can get from just questions like that.
Of which we have a list, if you already have it, of all proposed questions to ask while you're taking the tour, while you're in the reception greeter area, questions about the application registration process. These are all proposed questions that you can view before you go, and you can have as you take these tours, and it just helps to say, oh, well, what's this process or what's that process, just to kind of jog your memory. So we can also send that around, and thanks to Karen, we are in the process of pulling together a tool for you all to use that will provide kind of a checklist of the different things to look over during a review. That is going to be really short and easy to use than some of the bigger packets that are out and available.
Good.
Thanks, Juan.
Thank you. Yeah, and regarding the application and registration process, the purpose of this section is to examine the registration policies and performance measures with definitely particular attention to the MSFW process. And we'll also refer you to the monitoring guide, like Liana mentioned, on the appropriate questions. And also regarding, and I wanted to touch it on this one when Liana was talking about when you review the AOP, for instance, how do you connect, what would you be looking for? I think one of the things that we should be moving towards now, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, that the AOP has become an integral part of the state planning process, and then the state plans, is how is it connected to the state plan, to the unified state plan? How talk about anything else in the and sometimes what that will cost actually would be for the monitor advocacy. And I know the FPOs for Wagon Advisor that I look at the state plans when process something prior to the official on-site review. But how is the AOP connected to the state plans? And do they talk about anything anywhere else? And when the state talks about services to employees, do they talk to, especially significant states, do they talk about services to agricultural employers and outside of the agricultural outreach plan, or do they just leave it on as part of AOP? They should be possibly doing both, or maybe just in the section of services to MSFW. So, okay, we'll moving on to the next one. Consultations with a few of your partners, the agriculture employers, the W system and partner services impacting those service agencies, farm worker advocacy groups, special focused employment groups, to MSFWs. How is that conducted as part of the agricultural outreach plan, or as part of the an integrated approach to reach out to micro-seasonal farm workers that are not being reached through the normal intake process? Non-ag and FP employer services. How connection do they have? Do the local offices have? Sometimes at the state level, but the local offices have to agriculture employer services. I know there's some states. There's one in particular that I can think of that primarily focuses on employment services for farm workers, and not so much on the rest of the employment and training services. How is that being resolved, and to ensure that it's not just about just for farm workers, because otherwise that's what got us in trouble many years ago, when we just have job referrals for farm workers, and not being exposed to any of the rest of the employment and training services. Conducting the review. In this session, basically is again looking. Some states may have customer surveys. Looking at the complaint system, the apparent violation system, as part of the complaint system. There's some states, state monitor advocates, that have the agricultural employer forums. Take a look at that. All of you know, we're always looking for the compliance issues. Observations and definitely best practices. What are the states doing to provide services to the agricultural employer community? A lot of states conduct the agricultural employer forums. Also, some states conduct farm worker focus groups. Take a look ask for that. We're always looking for those opportunities to see how we can replicate it in other states. But some states do conduct some focus groups. I remember, it hasn't happened recently, but I remember I went to one of my first focus groups on specifically for older farm workers was back in 10 years ago. So take a look at those things, and then you get ready for your exit conference. I think, and again, preaching to the choir here, a lot of times you might conduct, if you're doing date review, you're going to come back after your local office reviews to conduct an official exit conference, but you may want to have an informal exit. You will need to have an informal exit in each of the local areas that you review, just to make sure that the state monitor advocates listening to what some of your issues at the time. At that time, probably they will not be considered as findings, but what you're going to be looking at when you do talk to the state, and when you talk to your administration. So, any questions so far regarding the reviews or the local office visits as part of the reviews? The post-review, I think, sometimes follow up the last one. And I say this because I know there's a couple of states. We sometimes just hear the same thing over and over. We have to make sure that they are following through with their findings. You know this well as FPOs. If we have a finding, how much time do we give them to resolve? Again, it's something that it's probably regionally, but how much time are we giving them to ensure that that finding is resolved and is part of your responsibilities? Follow up on these findings, on even some of the observations, and then answer any outstanding questions throughout the process. And definitely provide TA. I think it's important not just and we have it here as a post review, but definitely during the on-site review, providing technical assistance as needed, in the different areas that you're focusing on, or something that comes up, and they're also to provide technical assistance. And I know some of your FPOs would know this. There might be something, for instance, in one of my reviews that I conducted, the local office didn't have a poster, in the resource area. So, well, that's going to be a finding. But when we left, they make sure that poster was up there. But that's part of the whole finding to say, well, you can have the poster, but what about your culture of the complaint system? Do you have a really viable complaint system where you're taking complaints and micro and CSO farm workers and also the general public? Questions regarding the post review? The report, the formal report, and again, some of you have, 60 days, 90 days after the formal exit interview to send out the formal report. It's something that I think Liana alluded to as far as notifying the us at the national level in the national office, but also not just when conducting when you're going to be planning your reviews, but also in reports that you send out to your states for us to get copies, especially those where you're going to have findings. We want to make sure that we either we can provide some technical assistance or how we can follow up on these reviews and on the findings. Doing one time, Liana?
We're doing pretty well. What I wanted to do at this point was to, and thank you, Juan, for go over all of that. What I'd like to do now is turn over to the regional monitor advocates. Are there any challenges that you have faced while conducting a review?
This onions in Region 3, I don't think it's a challenge, but I think I was in Kentucky doing a review and YC review at the same time, that same week. So I wasn't doing a full review of the marketing where I was able to go out and deal on that particular one a few months ago. But the thing is that with I think we're tapping that as we are going through leaders reporting. They actually looking at how they interface with their system and the state system in capturing their data, and it's being able to, from the Martinez side of the house, how it was working, because they have this data that is reported in more than one system, and they all use their own system, Geo Solutions and some of the others maybe, but in different ones, but in capturing the data. But with that, they had an error that was reported that was just really a typo, as it turned out, which is 10 to 20 participants numbers in their quotation. So I think in the cumulative data. So I think what we are doing now and what will show up once as get this resolved, it may help us going forward with some of our state SMAs on how we can provide guidance and that data is being captured, and maybe insight on how they can interface with some of the other systems. So,
and you bring up a good point, Conyers, and I think sometimes, and we want to set this aside for another training opportunity, Liana, because I think just my dog, I'm talking today. Sorry about that. Let me get that. So sorry about that. That brings up a big point, Conyers, and thank you for bringing that up, because I think it's an area that we didn't even touch on this when we talk about application taking, but the designation of a migrant seasonal farm worker and the questions and the different questions, the way we have the regulations forth right now versus what the states ask and what you say Geo Solutions, America's Job Link, America's One-Stop Operating System, all these contractors that are out there, and how they're asking these questions. And I think that's something that we definitely want to take a closer look, Leanna, and that when we get together and possibly put together our next training session, because you're right, it's a big issue, and that we'll have to think about that one, because we might hold off until definitely we have the new regulations in place. Good point.
Thanks. And any other changes or also best practices? Anything you found that has helped you in reviews?
I just have one observation from the reviews that I've been on so far.
Mm-hmm.
I think many of the states' outreach activities are limited to going out to agricultural employers to conduct outreach with MSFWs there. And just one thing I'd like to see in one of the reviews I go on is more robust outreach plans.
Mm-hmm.
That are, non-traditional, that partner more with community-based organizations and go to gathering places rather than just places of employments for potential MSFWs to conduct outreach.
That throws out my statement that I always say, that the job of a migrant system, the job of an outreach worker is not a regular Monday through Friday job, 8 to 5 job, because they go out at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning to different places. But I hear your point.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely need to change that.
One of the examples I can think of recently, when we were in New Jersey, one of the case files we looked at, it was in a very urban area of New Jersey, which most of New Jersey is. Just coincidentally, one of the case files we looked at, the participant was employed by a farm labor contractor. And so it was an instance where this person, just a migrant during the seasons, but when there was no work, he moved to an urban area. And a lot more outreach can be conducted in those urban areas where, in the off-season, where workers are residing, aren't those ag jobs, and there's not much focus on that.
Well, also this brings up a very good point, and we're not going through that process this year because of the extension of the AOPs. But I think good thing that you bring this up, because we can prepare for next year's submission of the agricultural outreach plans. That's where I think we really need to focus on, and maybe we can provide more specific guidance when it comes to the submission and the development of the AOP, but definitely when we review the AOPs, what are they talking about when they conduct it? What they're telling us that they're going to conduct outreach, and how are they doing it? And so that's a good point. We'll have to remember that to make sure that we cover that in the next guidance.
Right. There's a whole other topic I'm getting into. I'm kind of digressing away from reviews, but
no, good. Yeah, no.
Well, it's part of it. It's part of what one is looking for, right? And one thing that comes to mind also is that other regional monitor advocates might see while they're conducting their reviews. So I had the opportunity, for example, to accompany during California review, and their outreach workers have some really great practices in terms of outreach to different areas, not necessarily urban, to my knowledge, but one outreach workers had a listserv with all the different MSFW service providers as well as ag employers on this listserv, and it helped open up the channel of communication between the outreach worker and all of these entities. So not only was the outreach worker receiving information about where the farm workers are, in all kinds of areas, but also the outreach worker was able to send information to all the stakeholders about events or services that were coming up. So, as you come across issues looking at how to create maybe more robust outreach plans, I would encourage everyone to also tap into the other regional monitor advocates who may have seen some of these services while they're out on reviews too, because then it'll help, it's all this cross-training so that then you can also provide that technical assistance from whatever you might learn from another regional monitor advocate to your state monitor advocate.
It's also, you remind me of something else, Jeremy, the fact that, we talk about reviews, and it's something that I think Liana was going to be part of here very quickly, is that we don't necessarily have to focus on reviews all the time. We can also accompany the state monitor advocates in their own reviews of their local offices. And that's part of the our regular visits to the states. I always tell people, I like the field office, the state reviews, but I feel more comfortable sometimes when I conduct state on-site reviews, because the states are more comfortable with it, with our visits also, and we can sometimes provide even better technical assistance when we see something. Hey, we're not part here to find it, to get find any fines but definitely you want to take care of this before we come back on an official review, and it just feels more comfortable when we conduct site reviews. We can also assist or accompany the state monitor advocates, not on an official review capacity, but just as a technical assistance capacity.
Point.
Yeah.
So we are at the end of our time. Is there are there any more questions? Questions?
I think Pi has a question.
Pi has a couple questions.
No, just before we go, I want to thank Liana for putting these training sessions together, but also and for you for attending. But also just a reminder and something that we kind of alluded to a little bit. So we're in the middle of the public comment period, and I don't know how aware of it, but just as a reminder that we need to remind our state monitor advocates, our partners, state workforce agencies, that we're still seeing their comments. It's their time to tell us. See the proposed regulations in the NPRM.
Yeah, Vaughn, thanks for reminding everyone of that. We're looking forward to receiving comments. So hopefully come in. Anything else?
Do I have anything else from regional monitor advocates for tomorrow for the state monitor advocates? You're on. So it's always invited and encouraged to participate in tomorrow's call. As Liana put it together, it says guest speakers. Two, Liana.
We have Mana. Let's see, her name is Louis. And she'll be speaking with everyone about access services as it pertains to the National Alliance for Hispanic Health, the Vice President for Programs. And we have a representative from USW Foundation who will also be talking about statutory sources for MSFWs. So I definitely welcome all the regional monitor advocates to attend. That'll be tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And hopefully you'll receive the invite. And we look forward to having you on the call if you're able to make it.
Yeah, I think our first guest speaker, Magdalena, will focus on, and I think, when we hear questions often, from state monitor advocates, we kind of try to respond either through technical assistance or inviting guest speakers. So this one is as a result of some state monitor advocates asking how farm workers can either qualify or apply for Obamacare. So I think she will be touching on that, right, Liana? And the working groups of farm workers also. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day and rest of your week, month, and we look forward to touching base with you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.